Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf. We are on Daf Mem in Maseches Nazir on the 6th line from the top of the Yom. Amar of Chisda. So as we know, a Nazir is not meant to take a haircut. Rather, he's meant to wait until the end of his Nazir's term and then cut his hair. And if in fact he does cut his hair within those 30 days, he has to allow his hair to regrow. Now, what constitutes, how do we define, what is the exact definition of a haircut? Amar of Chisda, actually, there are 3 separate definitions, depending on the context. Lilchais ba'achas, if he should dare cut his hair during the Nazirus, so he takes a razor, removes some hair, even one hair is enough to give him malchus on account of the lav which he violated. Ta'ar lo ya'avir al roisha. Even one hair is sufficient for that. However, la'akev b'shtayim. At the end of his Nazirus, when he does that haircut, he's meant to do a complete haircut. If he should leave behind 2 hair, that is a shear of significance, in which case he has not really completed his haircut properly. He has not really fulfilled that mitzvah. So if it's just 1 hair, it's okay, but 2 hair hold back the mitzvah. And Tosfos says these are halachis said by Nazir. We have no tam for them. This is the way it is. So violating the isser of tar lo ya'aver al reisha, taking a haircut throughout the Nazirus, 1 hair is enough. La'akev b'shtayim, when he does that mitzvah of teglachas at the end of his Nazirus, if he leaves behind 2 uncut hair, he has to go back and finish it off. He has not completed the mitzvah. Third halacha, lister. Within his Nazirus term, he took a haircut. So as we learned the other day, he has to wait until his hair regrows. In that case, it says Rav Chisda, what constitutes haircut? The concern is only applicable when he cut off most of his hair, most of his head. Ubisar. Rav Chisda adds the word ubisar, which, according to Tosfos, is actually going back on the first halacha, lilkais ba'achas, in order to be considered in violation of this isser of ta'ar lo ya'aver al roishai. So if he uses a razor, he shaves with a razor, which is the most efficient method of hair removal. It takes it off really at the root. Then he gets the malchus. Asks the Gemara, only by way of razor? What if he uses another instrument which achieves the same results? But tar in only with a razor, but with other forms not. You have a brisa. All methods work as long as you achieve the same results. How do we know to include all types of methods which achieve the same results? And in fact, we learned that the law applies there as well. That's all Chisda meant to say. Any instrument works as long as it achieves the same results as a razor shave. Tani Namiyachu, we have a brisa which supports Rav Chisda totally. Nazir shetalash mirei tzivsif kolshu. If a Nazir went ahead and cut his hair using all forms of removal, talash, he plucked, mirei to use some hair removal substance to do so, sifsef, or he plucked at the end, pulled it out, kolshu, even 1 hair. Eino yisayser ela b'reiv roisha ubesar. So when it comes to the isser, even 1 hair, kolshu. Tosfos is gers the word chayav, like Rav Chisda says. Cutting 1 hair is asr. 1 hair gets malchus. However, when it comes to being seiser, that need to regrow cut hair, that concern only applies when there was a proper haircut. If most of his hair was cut off. And the brisa concludes with the word ubisar, which according to Tosfos goes back to the first halacha. The malchus only applies if it's an efficient removal, such as a razor or the likes of which remove a full complete hair. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Shimon, he disagrees. You don't need roiv roishay to be soiser. Kashem sheshtei sa'aris ma'akves boy. Just as we said, that at the end of his Nazirus, when he does that taglachas shal mitzvah, he leaves behind 2 hair. It's an incomplete haircut. Kach shtei sa'aris soiseres boy. Likewise, since we see 2 strands of hair have chashivas. Likewise, if he should cut his hair within his prescribed time, within the term of the Nazirus, even just 2 strands of hair, soiseres boy. It's considered a haircut. It is as though he cut his hair and he has to wait for his hair to regrow. So he's in disagreement with Tanakama, who says only Giluach Roiv Reisha makes the halacha of Soiser. Tanan Hasan. Let's take a look at that Mishnah at the end of Maseches Negoim. Shloisha Megalchen. The following 3 individuals will shave their hair. V'teglachta mitzvah. And in fact, it's a mitzvah to do so. Which 3? Nazir, at the end of his Nazirus. Mitzvah, at the end of his Tahara process. V'levim, in the Midbar, when they were inaugurated into the Avodah instead of the Bechirim. They went through this process where they shaved all their hair, and they had tenufa done to them. Aaron HaKohen would lift them, wave them back and forth. So Tiglachas min HaTorah applies to these 3 individuals. And they're meant to use a razor blade, a proper shaving process. If they use another tool other than a razor, or they left behind 2 uncut hair, it's worthless. Let's go back to the Mishnah. The following 3 people do tiglachas, and in fact it's a mitzvah. Pshita. Of course, take a look at the Chumash. You'll find all 3. Why does the Mishnah need to trouble itself to bring this list? The answer is, the chiddush is, you need a tar dafka. You need a proper shave. Perhaps I would think, Mishum Avuri Seirhu. The point is just remove his hair. Even if he smeared nasha, some sort of hair removal agent, that's enough. Kamash Mondeloi. That's what the Mishnah is teaching us. You need to use a proper instrument, a tar. Ketani, so the Mishnah tells us, any of these 3 people who cut their hair without a razor, they were not Mekayim the mitzvah. Bishlam Gabi Nazir, I understand that Nazir needs a tar. Ksiv, the pasuk says, Le'tar le'avar roishay. And we learned yesterday that from that pasuk we learn that in fact, at the culmination of his Nazirus, he needs to take a proper shave with a razor. V'gab Levim Ksiv, by the Levim in the midword, it also says, V'viro tar al kol besarim. Okay, so we know it needs to be a tar. Ela mitzvah b'tar midal. What about a mitzvah? What does it say tar over there? Perhaps we'll say teisim levim. You can learn by comparing it to the levim. Ma levim shekain tu'unin tiglachas. Just like levim needed a shave, and it can only be done with a tar. Afani avi as a mitzvah. Likewise, I'll include the mitzvah as well. Shuton tiglachas, who requires a shave, and only with a razor. Is that a good match? No, you can differentiate. Mal Levim, you can't learn from Levim. Shekain, Tuna, Tenufa, they have an advantage over Mitzvah. You need to wave them back and forth. Tenufa begufam, their actual body needs to be waved, as opposed to a Mitzvah doesn't need that. Done to himself, only to his karbanis. Taima b'Mitzvah delay. So it's not a good comparison. Perhaps Levim have higher standards. Ella rather Teisim min Nazir. We'll learn Mitzvah from Nazir. How? Mal the Nazir shekain karbanis. Oh, no, 1 second. So we'll say, just like Nazir needs to shave with a razor, likewise Mitzvah. Says the Gemara, no. You can differentiate. Mala Nazir, you know why a Nazir needs a shave with a razor? She can't karbonai ton lechem. He has higher standards. His carb needs to come along with bread. As opposed to Mitzvah, no bread there, so you can't compare. Ella mechadali asi, you can't learn one from one. Because we find an element within Nazir, not found by Mitzvah. And when you compare it to Levim, we find an element found by Levim, not found by Mitzvah. Rather, we'll combine the sources. We're going to learn Metzora from a combined Nazir Levim source. How? Mehei Teisi, how are you going to learn it? Teisi Levim, if you learn directly from Levim, once again you can't. Mala Levim, perhaps Levim are different, Shekain Tu'una Tenufa Begufan, because they needed to be waived. They have an advantage over Metzora in that sense. While Nazir Yechiach, you can't say Tenufa Begufan is the reason for shaving with a Sa'ar. Look at Nazir. He doesn't have Tenufa Begufay, and he still shaves with a razor. Apparently that's not the reason. Well, Mala Nazir, but Nazir has his own advantage over Metzora, Shekain Karban Etoin Lechem, because he has the bread coming along. So perhaps that's the reason for his added, stringency that he needs to shave with a razor. Well, Levim Echichu. Let's look over at the Levim. They disprove this notion. They have no bread, and still they need the razor. V'chazar adin. That's called v'chazar adin. We just go back and forth. Loi roizeh, k'roizeh. The element found in product A is not found in product B. So apparently that's not the reason for this halacha. V'loi roizeh, k'roizeh. And the element found in the other product is not found in the first product. So neither this element nor that element can be the reason for this halacha. Rather, let's look at what they have in common. Hasad, Hashava Shabahem. What's the common denominator? Both Levim and Nazir. Shein Tuan Teglachas, but Teglachtam Betar. They need to shave with a razor. Af Ani Avi. Now I can compare Metzora, Esa Metzora Shuton Teglachas, who likewise needs to shave. And shaving is done with a razor. But Teglachtam Betar. So we know Metzora needs to shave with a razor. Amalei Rav Mibarnish l'Ravashi have a kasha. Ve'lifrich, we can still ask on this formula. You're comparing Metzora to Nazir and Levim together. I find another common denominator between Nazir and Levim, which is unfound by Metzora. Shekain ein karbani bedalis. In both Nazir and Levim, we don't find a staggered carbon bringing system, meaning they used to bring carbonis, behemois, even if they were poor. There's no discount, as opposed to Metzora. There's a special discount for a poor person who can't bring a behemah. The Torah was lenient with him. He can bring birds. So since we find that special leniency by Metzora unfound by Levim and Nazir, so perhaps when it comes to cutting hair, you don't have to look for a razor. Anything works. One second. Hi Tana. Let's just backtrack a bit. The Tana originally seemed to assume as a given that Metzora shaves with a razor. If you remember at the end of yesterday's daf, we wanted to learn Nazir from Metzora, just like Metzora needs a razor, Nazir as well. We said, we can't. Nazir is not the same level as Metzora. So apparently, it was a given that Metzora uses a razor. That was just the established notion, right? Hi Tana. This Tana Meikara originally, Amar, he said, well, Lalamde, to learn the Nazir from Metzora, you can't learn Nazir from Metzora. Shein don kal mechamer. And the reason was because Metzora has a stringency, he needs to shave his entire body, as opposed to Nazir, who just shaves his head. You can't learn the Kal, the more lenient, the Nazir from the Chomer, Lachmer love to bring about stringencies onto the Nazir. Bottom line is, the going notion was that Metzora needs to shave with a razor. And then you come back and say, Neilaf Medina. No, we're not sure if Metzora needs a razor altogether. Right? That was the whole Amid Gemara. We're going to have to use this formula to learn Metzora from others. Apparently it's not so clear that Metzora needs a razor. And then we go ahead and we say, Medina Nami Loyalef. No, we can't even be sure that Metzora will actually come up with a razor. Because we said the Metzora has a leniency, he brings birds. So how did we get to that conclusion yesterday that Metzora has a razor if we're not even sure about it now? Amar lei. So Rava responds, these aren't These weren't taught by the same Tana. Hahu alibu the Rabbanon. That original notion, that brisa was the Rabbanon, who in fact knew for a fact that Metzora needs a razor. The most recent brisa, we seem to be a bit uncertain on that. Alibu the Rabbi Lezer is following Rabbi Lezer's shita, who held that there is no clarity by Metzora regarding a razor. You have to learn it from Nazir, as we're going to see later in Daf Mem Aleph. So basically, there's a pasuk that tells us that a Metzora will shave everything, all is here, and then the pasuk itemizes this, that, his beard. Why does the Torah have to spell out? Once it already says all is here, everything's included. Now we know that a man is not meant to use a razor to shave his beard. The pasuk is by a kohen, but it's applied to Yisraelim as well. Now, what method is asur by hashchasas zaken, destroying a beard? What method? By machlekes, according to Rabbanan, this isur is specific to a shaver, which is the most commonly used method of hair removal, and it does a real good job. It removes it right at the root. I was going to say in a minute. So the Rabbanan tell us like this: we know that the isur of beard removal is specific to tar, and the pasuk goes and says, you should know that a Metzora need not worry about that isur. The standard isur of removing one's beard by way of a tar is not applicable to Metzora. In fact, the Metzora has a mitzvah to do so at the end of his tzaras. The assay, the positive commandment, overrides the isur, which typically applies regarding beard removal. So according to Chachamim, it's clear cut that how does a Metzora do his haircut? With a razor, because otherwise there would be no reason for the pasuk to allow it, to permit it, to permit the Metzora, to make that exception for Metzora. You can remove your beard. Well, if he's not using a razor, then there's no problem to begin with. So the very fact that the Torah has to trouble itself, so to speak, to spell it out. Yes, Metzora, you're an exception. You can go shave your zakan, something which is not typically allowed. And we know that typically the isur is only applicable to shaving by way of a razor. So in effect, the Torah is telling you the Metzora's haircut is done by way of razor, and that's why I have to make that exception. I have to allow it. Because if he's not going to use a razor, there's no need to make that exception. It wouldn't be usher in any case. That's the full circle pshat according to the Chachamim. And that proves to us that, yes, Teglachas of Metzora uses a tar, whereas according to Rabbi Lezer, it doesn't work. He holds that typically beard removal applies even to another instrument, even if it's not a razor, in which case this whole raya will not work. So again, Hahu with the Rabbanon, the original notion that a Metzora in fact uses a tar, that's the Rabbanon speaking. Based on these psukim, Ha'ali b'der Rabbi Lezer, the most recent brisa, which is unsure, is Rabbi Lezer speaking. This not as we find. Ve'enu chayiv achil ketenu b'tar. What about beard removal? It's only an isser, only a chayiv, by way of a razor. Rabbi Lezer Eimer, afilu liktei bil malkit, or berhitni chayiv, even removal by way of tweezers or plain, whatever it is, some other chayiv. My tamei du rabbanos. Now let's take it a step further. Having established that machlekes, hashchasas hazokan, beard removal, according to Chachamim, only an issue with a razor. Rabbi Lezer says other instruments as well. That's step one. Step two. How does that take us to Metzora? My tamei du rabbanon. Who are going to tell us that from this halacha of hashchasas zoken, we derive the proper method of hair removal of Metzora, the Sanya, Zakanai. Pasuk by Metzora specifies beard. Remove everything, including beard, eyebrows, this, that. What's the point of itemizing it? Once you already tell me a Matzera removes kol sarei, the answer is to be matter, to permit beard removal as well, even though he's using a razor, which is typically aser. He's not meant to remove his beard. Perhaps this applies to Matzera as well. No, his beard can be removed. So that's step 2. Step 3, how do we know that in fact, typically hashchosas zaken, beard removal, is only a concern if it's with a razor. They shouldn't remove their beards. Perhaps even with a scissor. Don't destroy. This denotes a complete and comprehensive removal. Right at the root. And a scissor doesn't do that. Okay, fine, not a scissors. At least behind, a stub. What about a malkit, the tweezers, etc., which totally remove the hair, but it's not a razor. No. You need to have both elements. A complete removal and do it the way it's typically done. A proper shave with a razor. What's typically used for giluach? A razor. What's your regular type of giluach, which actually removes everything? That's limited to a razor. So that's step 3. So we have step 1, step 2, and step 3, which leads us to our conclusion that in fact a Metzora will use a razor upon completion of his saras to remove his hair. Again, step 1 is there's an isser of beard removal. It only applies, according to Chacham, only applies by way of razor. Step 2, Torah says, a Metzora is megalech all is here, and then the Torah itemizes, specifies his beard as well. Why does the Torah have to do that? Apparently, the Torah is telling you beard removal, which isn't typically allowed, is allowed in this case, and in fact, it's a mitzvah in this case. Step 3, doesn't that prove to us a Metzora will use a razor? But otherwise, there's no need to permit beard removal, which isn't usher, unless it's a razor. So that's our maskana. That's our conclusion, that Metzora requires a razor. Asks the Gemara Kash. Okay, perhaps he can use a razor, but doesn't have to. Mimai. Who says he has to? Perhaps if a Metzora uses other instruments to remove his hair, it's also fine. And when Torah says ziknai, as we explained, to be mater, using a razor on his beard, afilu lashminan, v'kas lashminan afilu betar le'mechayvele. Maybe the Torah is just permitting. You have 2 options. You don't have to use a razor. If you choose to use a razor, you're okay. You're not chayiv upon removing your beard. So true, we see that it's mutter, but who's to say it's required? So the Bnei Yeshiva had 2 answers to this. Number 1, Amri. Number 1, if we shall propose and suggest that any other method is okay, then I wouldn't need a pasuk to allow using a razor. That can't be the point of the pasuk, to allow it. Torah should just stay silent and not mention the razor at all. Not mention the fact that he can remove his beard, which indicates that he's using a razor. There's no need to discuss that. I would figure out on my own that he can use a razor if he chooses to. I would just say, Umaga be Nazir. I learn from Nazir. Since by Nazir the Isuro, how does a person become a Nazir? He commits, accepts Naziris, which we learned many times is not optimal. It's not recommended. Deprivation is not the way of the Torah. So it's considered somewhat of an Isser. The Isur Ka'avid, Afilachim Machayi. Even so, the Torah says you're chayiv to use a razor and shave his hair at the end of the Nazirus, even though he's removing his payas, etc. Hacha, the mitzvah over here by the Metzora, where he's just involved in a mitzvah to make himself tar, etc. Like Koshkin, of course. This mitzvah of removal, hair removal of the Metzora, is doicha, the isser of destroying his beard. It would be as simple as that. You wouldn't need the pasuk of zakanai by Metzora to allow it. It's pasha that would be mutter. So what then did the pasuk have in mind when it said zakanai? Not to allow it, to require it. What do you mean to require it? To require a shave by way of a razor. That's the point of the pasuk. Visu, another answer to your question. Perhaps it's optional. Who says it's required? I'll give you another answer. Because if it's not required, it would not be permitted. You see, at the end of the day, when he shaves his beard, the Metzora, when he with a razor, he's actually, negating the isser of beard removal. But we say the asay, the positive element of doing this mitzvah, overrides the negative effect of beard removal. It's like asay deichalei asay, right? But we know that we only apply that formula when there's no other option. So if your take should suggest that a Metzora can use another method of hair removal, he doesn't need a razor, there wouldn't be a heter to use a razor. Just use the other method. Visu, another answer to your question. If you're going to suggest and propose ki avid b'malkit b'rehitni mitzvah ka'avid, that in fact he can use other methods and it's okay, then he would not be able to use a razor at all to remove his beard. But like ksiv tar, because since the pasuk doesn't say that he can use a razor, he wouldn't be mutter to use it at all. Just use another system. Rish Lakish, as Rish Lakish taught us elsewhere, whenever you have a clash between a positive and a negative, step back and take a look. Evaluate the situation. Do you really need to create that clash? Or can you reconcile both? If you can address and satisfy both of them properly, mutav. That's the way to go. If you have no choice, okay, then the Yavei Asay, then the positive mitzvah overrides the other one. So apparently, if we're allowing him to use a razor, it must be because it's the only method. It's the only way to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be allowed to do it. So the fact that the Torah says ziknai, which indicates, yes, remove your beard, and apparently he's doing it with a razor, otherwise you would need to be matir it. It's mutter, it's no chiv without a razor. So the heter of removing his zaken indicates that he's doing it with a razor. And if you can do it with a razor, apparently that's because it's the only way to do it. Otherwise it wouldn't be mutter. So in fact, this is the makar of the Chachamim, that Metzora is megaleach with a tar. Now, Rabbi Lezer's source will be discussed by Hashem tomorrow. Okay, so in summation, we started with Rav Chisda. 3 shiurim regarding hair cutting. A Nazir removes 1 hair, malchus. At the end of the Naziris, when he cuts his hair, he leaves behind 2. No mitzvah. If he should take a haircut throughout his Naziris, which requires a regrowth, right? It's the regrowth for Gidol Seir. It only applies when it's Roiv Sa'arei, and there's a Shita which is Chaylik. Even removing 2 hair at that early premature stage creates an issue. 3 individuals do a Tiglachas L'Shem Mitzvah. Nazir, Metzora, and Levim, all of them use a razor, tar. Nazir and Levim are in the Psukim. Metzora, that's the question. And I point to the Maskanas Gemara. Rabbanan will learn from the word ziknai. We allow you to remove your beard, which we know is only an isser when a razor is used. Apparently, a Metzora needs to use a razor, and that's why the pasuk has come to be mater. Beard removal for the mitzvah of Giluach Metzora. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.